Hey now, welcome to the Dirty Side of the Track. It's America's leading Formula One podcast. I'm Brian Saperstein, that's Rob Vale, and with us this week is Rob Reed. Rob Vale, explain the episode we're about to have because it's going to be amazing.
It is going to be amazing. We are deciding to go for a different format this week. You know, we've had interviews, we've had DRS interviews, we've had Vale's Tales, we've had our normal race reviews, and we just got some feedback that wouldn't it be good to kind of pull up a third stool at our virtual bar and have someone guest join us for the entire episode. So he had some good feedback from his appearance, so whether he's unlucky or lucky, I'm not quite sure, but we will welcome back to the Dirty Side, Rob Reed. Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Hey, so good to be here. Talking about my favorite topic.
Being unlucky? Then yes, then you are at the right place, my friend.
So today's running order is going to be news and social. Then something that we hope works out better than the quiz, the ill-fated quiz. Not going to lie, it's another bit of an idea that's kind of out there, but we'll see how we go with our feature, which is called Unpopular Opinions. And then finally, what feels like forever, we get to do a race preview because it will be race week next week as we head to Singapore. So kind of that's the flow.
So excited about a race being back. So excited. And these come out on Sunday, so I got to get this right, Rob Vale. Tomorrow starts Rawi Keek?
Correct. Monday is the beginning of...
Okay. But not Sunday, so
Sunday's
cannot...
No.
Okay.
That's the end of a race week. But anyway, let's not go down that rabbit hole again. Talking of race weeks, one of the biggest announcements of the week was the 2023 calendar is out, and we're going to have 24 races jam-packed in. So let's be nice to our guest, and I'm going to ignore you, Brian, and say, Rob, anything that caught your eye on kind of the schedule?
I mean, it's just the debate about whether or not 24 is too many, I think is just kind of awkward when it's coming from like journalists and fans and other people who would want to see more races. So like who are they really arguing for, right? Like do they own a team? Do they have family members who are like on the pit crew? I want, for me, it's like if you said they're going to be 52 races, I'd be like, that's one too many. Get a weekend off, right? Like we're fans, the sponsors want more races. We want more races. And I think the limit is the fans' attention and the willingness of sponsors to put dollars in, that's the limit. And then the teams in F1 can figure out, do they need two pit crews, and the other thing I was thinking about is that maybe the top two drivers don't have to do all the races.
Ooh,
right.
Hold that thought for later. Yeah, that's an interesting.
Maybe
one.
the reserve drivers take a few races, and they just got to figure it out because we want more races, and we can't, if they can't handle 24, 25, 26 races, like let's just figure it out. Like it is possible to figure this out, right? We don't need to be capped at some arbitrary number, as long as there's demand for it, right?
Right. So, interesting. I didn't realize we'd started the unpopular opinions so early in the episode. I mean, I get your point, right? You're taking sort of the view of the fans' supply and demand curve and kind of matching it up, and it is at the unlimited amount because we want as many as we can get. It's the most interesting part to me that jumps out as an American sports fan, and in particular NBA. You mentioned using the reserve drivers, and Rob, we'll get into a different driver scenario later, but just in this scenario, using reserve drivers or to run some of the races, I always think about the rest in the NBA and the players taking rest and people paying money for a ticket to watch LeBron, but LeBron's on the bench in a new outfit every night because he's resting up for the playoffs. And so how do you think a fan would feel showing up to watch a race and Max is sitting out and Lewis is sitting out and Charles is sitting out because it's their off week, and you paid, $1,000 to go to the race, and you're getting, Logan Sargent instead of somebody else. So and I'm not knocking Logan. My point being, you're just not getting the guys at the top of the championship. How would you view that? Because to me, that NBA rest thing is always a topic.
Well, I would actually go back to when George Russell was the reserve driver for Mercedes after he had won the F2 championship. and then kind of how he performed when he had to sit in for Lewis, right? So like if in that 2018 season when he was the reserve driver and Lewis already had the championship locked up and he went to the Mexican Grand Prix and won the thing, right? Like you would be like, you'd be psyched that you were there to see George Russell's first Formula One win, right? And it would be awesome.
I think you'd have to publish in advance, like to be fair to the fans, right? If you were like, let's say you were like a number one Lando Norris fan and you've saved up all your pennies and you've picked this race and you book the hotel and the flights and whatever, and you get there and it's his rest week, you would be so gutted. So you'd almost need to have like the driver's schedule. Now, here's a little thought, something that neither me or Brian have even looked into yet, but like back in the 50s, there was obviously championship races and non-championship races. So do you go back to an era of that where you say, yeah, there's 52 races, but only 26 of them are championship and 26 are non-championship, and the non-championships have the reserve drivers in. And then you get racing every week, but not necessarily all of it for the World Drivers' Championship.
That is the smartest thing Rob Vale has ever said. It is
You nailed it. You solved it.
idea. I don't know where it came from, but just amazing. Just amazing.
One other thing before we move on from the calendar, I did see somebody, because, the internet can be both an evil but also an hilarious place, and somebody had kind of put the whole F1 is it 2030 they want to be carbon neutral by? The F1's carbon zero campaign, and they're like, let's just have a look at the air miles someone needs to do just to do this calendar, if they even don't go home for any weekends in between. And it's like some insane amount of travel that everyone's going to do. There's been no thought here to the most efficient way of getting around the globe, let's put it that way.
We talked about that when we reviewed the calendar. We assumed that they would segment these races a little better than they have before. And yes, there are some in the Americas, but that's how they're doing it now. We thought there would be better clusters and not the back and forth, and none of that happened.
I think they tried to keep certain races to certain periods of the year, maybe whether it's weather related or they want it at the beginning or the end, and then everything else kind of roughly. I mean, towards the end, if you kind of look, we do go USA, Mexico, Brazil, Vegas, so we kind of stay on the same area of the world.
But we do that today. I mean, effectively.
Yeah, true.
But the early season back and forth doesn't
the triple header with Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah, close because they pay to close. So
they go to Vegas and then they go to Abu Dhabi. That's the big jump that people are criticizing. But yeah, I think they're just between a rock and a hard place in terms of trying to figure out the calendar, and then they put it out without the team and Formula One, like even having a blessing on it. So that caused a little bit of a stir.
All I care about is that the Canadian Grand Prix did not move. So Brian and I with our tickets, and also we went early on booking accommodation before maybe all of the Airbnb folk caught on as to what was going on that weekend. So we were just praying that was the final calendar and it didn't get changed. So
let's hope the person we rented the Airbnb from hasn't figured this out and canceled our reservation yet.
Oh, that's true. I don't think I'm going to hope they're not allowed to do that. If they do,
they're
then
very much allowed
to
do that. So if they're listening, please don't do that.
We'll do the pod from your property, and we'll big you up, and we'll give you free advertising.
I'm sure that'll work.
Right, last thing on the calendar, Monaco got from being it might get dropped has now been confirmed until 2025. So nothing but swings and roundabouts.
I mean, I'm a big fan. I know it's a boring procession, but I think that's the best quality on the calendar. Sorry, I just do. I love how tight it is, how much they push it. People bend tires on corners. Saturday, Monaco quali is epic for me. And then this last race, I know people were bored with the rain slow start, but Pierre was going through that thing like he was on fire. It made it fun. And I know people say the track's too narrow, there's no overtaking. I get all that. But it's history and tradition. I was excited. It stuck around.
Yeah, I am a bit of a romantic when it comes to Monaco, so I'll happily see it on there.
I feel like tracks and venues can come and go off the calendar. Like I don't think anything is sacred on the calendar.
Ooh,
right?
We might be pulling that third bar stool away from you in a minute, Rob.
And I guess back to like the reserve driver thing, like my perspective is and so I related to the perspective of being like a Lando fan, because I'm a fan of the sport, and I also kind of take more of a journalist view on it. I just like great racing no matter who's driving. I don't really have any favorite drivers. There are certainly ones that I like more than the others, and teams that I kind of appreciate more than others. But I just love Formula One as a sport. I love watching the racing. Don't actually care like so much about who's in the seat. Like I just want to see a great race. That's my purview. That's my perspective on it.
I gotta be honest. The other night when we were at the bar and you showed me that Stoffel tattoo you had on your back, I don't think this relates. You were such a big Van Dorn guy.
I got burned. I got burned on that one. So.
I see. You've backed away from being so focused. That's smart. That's smart. There's only so much space for Stoffel tattoos.
Moving on.
We built Stoffel up so much.
News this week that Alpine are going to run 3 drivers in a private test using a 2021 spec car at the Hungaroring this week. And the rumours going around is it's Nick De Vries, Giovinazzi, and Alpine Academy driver Jack Doohan. Not sure, everyone thinks now that we might as well hit the fact that Latifi was let go this week, right? So everyone's kind of saying, well, that's a done deal that De Vries is going into that seat. But I'm not quite so sure it is. I think silly season has still got a few little surprises up its sleeve right now. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm kind of curious. I mentioned him already, Logan Sargent. There's been a lot of conversation around him. I'm curious what this whole super license situation is going to bear itself out for a variety of drivers. He'd be one. So I don't know. I mean, we knew the seat would be open. I'm more curious about Pierre and what's going to non-officially happen with him. I mean, have you heard more rumors in the last couple of days about Pierre's movement or not?
Well, there was something online about Pierre then being targeted to go to Alpine.
Right.
And I'm like, but why would they seem like pretty locked now where they've just announced Yuki, right?
At AlphaTauri, yeah.
At AlphaTauri, and so they seem pretty locked in. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't want to second guess it. I mean, the sergeant, I think I read that if he stays where he is at the moment, he'll get enough points for his super license, but he's got a history of tanking towards the end of the season. If he drops out of where he is at the moment, he won't have enough points come the end of his season that he's in at the moment. So who knows? He's definitely in a better position than Colton Herta that's got nowhere near enough points for a super license. So.
I did see a lot of people trying to figure out the super license situation, and I just kept wanting to write back on every Twitter, like, check the blog. Rob Vale figured this out already. It's all been cracked. DirtySideOfTheTrack.com.
Well, before we move on to the next bit, what about you, Rob? What do you think silly season's got up its sleeve?
Well, I think the thing that doesn't get talked about so much is that, Latifi's a paid driver. Right. So when it's his family, it's sponsors, it's people that are paying for his seat, just like Lance Stroll effectively is a paid driver. So that's going to leave a hole in Williams's budget. So that's the factor that we don't talk about so much is the driver that's going to come in has to probably come in with some serious sponsorship dollars to fill that hole in Williams's budget. So, and I thought it was also interesting. I saw that I didn't realize that Jumbo was like Max's sponsor because there was the CEO of Jumbo was, I don't know, something happened with him legally. Oh. And it came out that, he was, Jumbo was a big Max Verstappen sponsor. So they all carry sponsors.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To the team, their own individual, they bring budget to the team, but Latifi brought an outsized amount of money. We don't know what it is.
Oh, he bought a Scrooge McDuck amount of money to the team. I mean, yeah. So
if De Vries doesn't have that, Williams can't sign him. They can't run the team. So these are just kind of the factors that we don't really necessarily see from the outside.
Has anybody connected the two dots? And I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on over my ears, but Nicky Latifi's father has a large stake in McLaren, the manufacturer, and that when Lando's contract, which is very long, ends, Latifi comes back to McLaren in 4 years. Anybody taking that?
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Put your tinfoil hat away, Brian.
Yeah. By the way, it's now covered my entire body. It's a tinfoil body condom with that one. Let's move on.
Right. Last thing that we had in our little news and social section was big fighting words coming out of Mercedes. They are targeting Singapore for a strong showing, and they honestly believe that over the next 6 races they will secure the win they need to make sure that they've actually had a win in this calendar year, and more than that, that they believe they can chase down Ferrari for second place in the constructors. And I was thinking, they've got to be miles behind. But again, we've talked about this on previous episodes. The Mercedes boys have just been plugging away with never really getting too high up. So they're 35 points behind Ferrari at the moment, Mercedes. Wow. I did not think it was that close. There is a real possibility that Mercedes can chase those guys down. I said, was it our mid-season thing? I said that Lewis would join the 300. He would be the first 300 club person to win a race. So Mercedes are getting stronger. It's getting closer, I think.
And how far up can George go if he doesn't win a race this year? I mean, that'll just be epic to see if he can make it to the top, to the podium of the driver standings at the end of the year without a victory. Oh.
So that's kind of all we had. But, we thought here, we love a good pun at the dirty side. And we've got a journalist with us right now as well. So we thought we'd thread into the news and social. We would ask Rob, as he sat on his bar stool, in the good old kind of kid holding out the newspaper, in our news part of mini section of news and social, read all about it.
All right.
That, by the way, was Rob. He recorded that this morning after his bar.
In my best Cockney accent. Yeah, that's right. So, anything caught your eye this week, Rob?
Well, I did. I wrote my last story for Forbes was about Las Vegas before the schedule came out, but like the preliminary schedule had already come out, putting it on November 16 to 18 with a race time of 10 p.m. local time. Which they, of course, it sets F1 Twitter, off with these kind of weird things especially when they say we're doing it for the European audience. And so they get the times for like them to wake up and have their coffee and watch, F1 Vegas. And I'm just like, no, that's how Vegas should be. Vegas should be Saturday night at 10 p.m.
That's right.
It's like the place doesn't sleep. It's open 24/7 and it's going to be a night race anyway. So it just makes sense locally. And then you've got so you're going to go 10 to midnight for the race, and then you're going to party all night. And then you've got all day Sunday to recover. Right. So it really just, I think schedule wise really works out for Vegas. So took a look at that.
Yeah. I think Vegas got an absolute battering this week on Twitter. I think because the schedule came out and that time thing kind of caught everyone's attention again. All of a sudden, all the pictures of the track came back out again, and everyone's bashing it and going, "Oh, it's going to be a terrible race. It's awful.
It's an
race.
upside down pig."
It looks like an upside down pig.
It does, though. It really does.
And I'm like, well, it's got like a number of straights and a number of hard braking zones. I went and watched WTF1. Somebody had done a mod on a racing game, and Matty from WTF1 had like driven a lap of it, and he kind of said, it's a bit simple. But maybe simple's what F1 needs again. It just needs some straights with some heavy braking zones, and let's forget all the things where we tried to get too overcomplicated. So, I don't know. I'm a ridiculous optimist, but I think it looks like it could give some good racing. But you were there this week, Brian. And you did a lap in an Uber
you
cab.
did a lap.
So
Well, almost a full lap. Some of it's not under construction.
Yeah.
And my time was made up. That was fake. But yeah, I got the Uber driver driving around, most of the pig, and I'm in the back. I'm like, make a left. He's like, sir, I have to go right to your destination. I'm like, just make a left. And so. We did a lot of it. Yeah, you know what? I'm excited for it. I really am. Rob, you're right. It is not the most complicated track, and I have a place in my heart for street tracks, but they have to be good. They have to generate good action. And I know Baku wasn't great this year, but I'm an Azerbaijan guy. I love that particular track. I just think it's going to be fun to watch for the fans. And I know people are saying MGM's buying up tickets and making packages, and it's going to cost an arm and a leg. However, there are like 4,000 hotel rooms that'll be overlooking the track. And forget the grandstands for a minute. You can sit in your hotel room and watch the cars go by, unless, of course, you have the hotel room I had this week, and the only thing I saw out the window was an air conditioning unit. But aside from that problem, I think
and actually, the Cosmopolitan is, I think, the only hotel on the Strip that's got open balconies that overlook the Strip. All of them, all the other ones are you're just behind glass.
Yeah.
And that is like going to be looking out on the braking zone of the the long straight on the strip.
Yeah, right as they
So
come up to Tropicana, it'll be right there.
Yep. So yeah, you're gonna have the Cosmo, and I think you got Planet Hollywood on the other side too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Aria's
So-
right there, and you're back a bit from Bellagio, but just you'll have a bunch as you head up. I think you'd even have like Flamingo. I can't remember where it comes.
You got
back
you got
around.
the Venetian. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the Mirage.
It's gonna be great, and like
Yeah.
I'm excited for it, and you know what? I like giving it a try. So let's see if it sucks or not. And
Well,
hopefully
the
it
other
doesn't.
thing is if it does suck or if it's not up to par. I mean, the Formula One in Vegas has carte blanche to do whatever they want, right? So they can add sections. They can't add elevation, right? Like it's a flat track, right?
Yeah,
That's the only thing.
they're not going to put a hill in the middle of the street.
Yeah, they're not gonna add an Eau Rouge, like,
Right.
Oh, I'm just thinking now.
Even though like they have Paris, so why not have an Eau
And
Rouge?
New York. I mean,
well, where I'm going now, they're going to try and one up Miami and have a real marina that they just go and drop into the middle of the strip.
well, they could just put boats in the fountain in front of Bellagio because you'd have a great view from that.
There's no limit in Vegas,
Yeah, and there's
So-
no common sense, so it'll be fantastic.
And the facility that they're going to build there is going to be insane. Like this is my kind of pre-unpopular opinion. So in 5 years, the center of gravity of Formula One will shift to Las Vegas.
What?
Ooh. Heard it here first, folks.
Take it easy over there. We haven't even started the game yet. Speaking of which, maybe it's time to start the game. So
Well, that was an amazing segue because I was gonna segue off the Twitter sphere because how this kind of I don't even know when this started, but this week I ended up following a Twitter account called F1 Anonymous, and it's brilliant. But it's brilliant for the fact that a lot of people that respond don't read the bio and don't know what it is. So just to set the scene, there is an account called F1 Anonymous, and on their bio, I think they've got a Google form, or you can DM them. You can send them in an opinion, and then they tweet it out from the account. So if you've got an opinion that you don't want to get into trouble for putting on your personal account, you send it into F1 Anonymous. I'm sure they triage them to get rid of anything that's too spicy, but they'll just put out, there's so much, you just read all the tweets that have come out of there, and there's some real humdingers of kind of unpopular opinions. But people then just wade in and go, this account must be a troll account, you can't believe this, and people are getting so angry about this. It's brilliant. But, long story short, we came up with the idea of a game called Unpopular Opinions, and Rob has also agreed to take part in this. Not sure he knows what he's let himself in for, but we have come up with 6 unpopular opinions in the world of F1, and a random draw was made to allocate 2 unpopular opinions to each of us, and we will take it in turns, basically making it feel like we believe that unpopular opinion, and we will try to convince the other 2 to come over to the dark side and join us in our view of this unpopular opinion. So we're going to do 1 each and have 2 rounds and just see where it goes. So again, unlucky for you, Rob, you got pulled out first, and the running order is going to be, you're going to do yours, Brian's going to do one, I'm going to do mine, and then we'll go around again. So Brian, do you want to read out the first unpopular opinion that Rob is going to have to try to convince us about?
Oh, so I got to be the guinea pig on this?
Yeah, you do, yeah.
All right.
welcome to the game, Rob. It is time for Unpopular Opinions F1 version. The first one we have for you, Rob, is older circuits in the middle of nowhere are not relevant anymore. All races should be in cities with famous landmarks. Convince us.
Obviously, this is the direction that the sport of Formula One is going. The days of driving out to the middle of nowhere to have a Formula One race are just gone. You just have to accept where things are going. Things are going to Vegas. They're going, to Singapore. They're going to the Middle East, to those great places like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, like in these big city centers where it's easy for fans and teams and everybody to get in and out of. There's all the facilities there. I mean, I was in Europe and actually like riding earlier this season with Valtteri Bottas, and I was thinking maybe I'll try to get to Spa, but it was going to be impossible for me to get there and figure out like where to stay. Like all the accommodations at the track were of course long booked. So I was gonna have to stay in Liège or something like that. And I was just like, nope, not possible. But if it was, some other bigger, kind of urban center, I would have been there. So you just got to kind of understand that it's the future of Formula One.
Rob Vale, response.
You see, you started off strong with the Vegas. I can see it. I can see the strip, the lights, the glamour, the glitz. When you tried to put a dagger through the heart of Spa, you lost me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, same. I mean, I was all over here like talking Vegas, and I'm thinking
Vegas, baby, Vegas.
And then I'm like, but the same Spa, and I started thinking of all the tracks that I really enjoy that are purpose-built tracks, and a lot of them purpose-built in places that are no longer in the center of things, like a Spa. And it's just, I recognize it's hard to get to them. But if you took away, some of the tracks that, even if they're not that close to the city center, if you took away the Monzas or like Austria, the Red Bull Ring, I recognize the racing isn't always great there, but it's beautiful and it's fun to look at. And Zandvoort's a beach town. And I know some of these are close, but yeah. Sorry.
Having said that, you see, maybe you could have got me, Rob, because if you'd have mentioned London, when I was watching the Queen's funeral this week and they were doing the kind of the procession through, I was looking at that, and there had been talk of like an F1 race in London and coming down the Mall and in front of Buckingham Palace, and I thought that would be epic. So, missed opportunity there. If you'd gone after London, you might have got me.
Fair enough.
Right, Brian, you ready?
Yeah, I'll give it a try.
Your first one that you got served up is Danny Ricciardo is an average driver at best. One fluke win in a McLaren does not change this, and everyone overrates him just because he's a nice guy with a smile who drinks out of a shoe.
Okay. So Danny Rick had a few good years at Red Bull. He is clearly on the decline since then. He has reached his expiration date a long time ago. Yes, he had a lucky win at McLaren. Lando was up his trumpet. If you remember, the two best drivers that race had crashed into each other. He was fourth at best in the car that was purpose-built at that race. So Danny Rick, at his time at Renault, he got on a podium by the end, lucky. I think the other drivers let him by so he could give Cyril a tattoo. He loves drinking from a shoe. He loves talking about it. Here he is talking about Martin wanting to drink out of it.
Martin was like frothing for it.
And I mean, like, all this is fine and good and fine. But tell me the last time he's been better than his teammate. And I bet you can't tell me that. So sorry, he's average at best. Okay, that really hurt me to say all that.
Oh man, it just feels wrong going against Danny Rick. But am I falling victim to the smile? I don't know. What do you think, Rob? I think you might have got me here.
So like I mentioned before we started, I actually last night watched the 2016 Singapore Grand Prix, and Daniel Ricciardo got second. Verstappen got seventh. Ricciardo qualified second. He was chasing Nico Rosberg the entire race. They went to a 3-stop, and he chased him down by 2.5 seconds a lap. In the closing laps, it was amazing. So like I have this like fresh memory of like when I really became a Danny Ricciardo fan. Having said that, I mean his results since leaving Red Bull, I'm Brian convinced me.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
okay.
This is hard.
As much as I like him.
I know this is really hard because
I just see I know my first one as well. So.
I don't know if we all agree with all these, but we're going for it. And here we go with another one. This one is about Chuck Leclerc. Rob Vale, are you ready, buddy boy?
Yes, I don't want to do this, but go on.
Leclerc is not a top driver, and Ferrari seat is wasted on him. He was a decent driver in poor cars, but a top car has exposed his skill ceiling. And the Ferrari strategy debacles is a welcome smokescreen for him to hide behind.
Okay, if you look at the 4 seasons that he's been at Ferrari, one of the best cars on the grid, and he's only managed 4th, 8th, and 7th. And this year he's going to manage probably 3rd at best, maybe even 4th in the World Drivers' Championship in a car that really should be challenging for the title. In his first season, he basically just pipped Vettel in the same car, but more out of luck, really. Seb suffered with more mechanical breakdowns than he did, and he couldn't even be the best of the rest behind the two Mercs because the Red Bull of Max at the time, which wasn't even a rocket ship at that time, still beat him. The next year, next year he dropped down to 8th with both Renault drivers, Danny Rick, who's an average driver, and Ocon, and Sainz in a McLaren all beat him. This is Charles Leclerc, a supposedly amazing driver in a Ferrari, struggling to get above lesser cars. 2021, he was 7th, and new boy Sainz, who's just getting used to the Ferrari, is 5th. This year's arguably got one of the best cars on the grid, and he's probably going to get overtaken by George in the championship. He's just a bang average driver that's wasting the seat. George, Lando, Lewis, or Alonso would be taking the fight to Max in that car. Sorry, Charles.
I mean,
Oh my god!
I don't even know where to start. That was really well done, but my answer is still Charles on Charles.
When you win for Ferrari at Monza, you get the ultimate pass basically forever. He needs to work on his consistency, but he's in the top. He's one of the top 5 drivers on the grid, no doubt.
I loved your argument. I think you did. No, I think you did a really good job. Seriously, you had to see Rob. He was hiding behind the microphone at the end, like cowering. He felt so bad, and I'm over here going, "You took too long." But I would say, no, you didn't convince me. I'm actually Rob Reed. I would say he's one of the top 3 drivers on the grid today. I'd put him with Hamilton and behind Verstappen. Both Hamilton and Leclerc behind Verstappen personally, but
yeah, you just need consistency to win a championship.
But the quali laps he can bang out there, and he does make some mistakes during the race, but I don't think they're that large. I think he's getting better as he goes. So great try.
Yep.
But no dice. Okay, I was looking forward to this one, and I was just glad it didn't come to me when it was being drawn out of the hat. So
drawn out of the hat. You assigned to these, bro.
Yes,
I didn't. It was a random supercomputer that did this, known as my daughter. But anyway, here we go, Rob, for your second one. Abu Dhabi ended correctly as the rules allowed for the race director discretion to be made.
Oh, man. Rob's not coming back after that one.
Okay, so granted, the way the rules are written, Abu Dhabi should have finished under a safety car, and Hamilton should have won his 8th. However, at that time, there was, in fact, discretion for the race director to be able to make these decisions, to just let a few of the lap cars unlap themselves to get one last lap of racing in. And that's what Michael Massey did. He had that discretion, and then they, as a result of that, made it so they no longer have that discretion going into this season, and that's why in Monza it finished under a safety car. So, and also Massey lost his job as a part of that. But when you go back and you look at the rules and you look at the power that a single race director had in last season at Abu Dhabi, he could have made that. So it could have gone either way. It certainly could have gone either way. And that's the decision he made, and that's the way the season finished. Verstappen was champion.
Hashtag move on.
I wonder.
Fixed.
Yeah. But the I is a 1. So really good job. And I like the way you leaned on the rules part. Totally accurate. He had that discretion. We still don't know if Toto's emails ever got through from the earlier races about it.
Michael, I just send you an email.
We'll see if those ever come through. But the question I have is, Rob Vale, I listened to that. He's right. And it was a logical argument. But it's like the most polarizing thing. And I don't know if we could ever overcome that. So while you had a cogent and fantastic argument, no, you didn't convince me. It was still such a sham. I don't know.
Look, I'm going to throw somebody under the bus on this one, because I brought this up with Pit Lane Paul, and he gave me that argument. So actually, that's not even...
Oh, man.
Oh, I see. You've been doing behind-the-scenes research on this one, have you?
I brought it up to him when I first met him. Of course, it's like one of the first things you want to ask somebody like that. Like, what was your take from inside, the pit lane and being in Formula One? and he gave. So I only knew to argue that because he gave it to me. Sorry, Paul.
Rob, did he sway you? He did not sway me. It was a good argument. I give him a lot of credit.
He did sway me purely because those were the rules, and regardless of whether anybody wants to say that it was it doesn't like sit horribly in your throat, and it shouldn't have been how it was. It did allow for that. So was he put under pressure? Did he buckle? Maybe, but did he buckle within an area that he's allowed to buckle? Oh yeah, I can't even say it. No, you didn't.
We both wanted to say yes, very much so.
Both want to say yes so much. Okay, Brian, I love this one for you. Okay, your second one. The car is more important than the driver.
So I hate this argument, but here we go. All right. Nicholas Latifi, if you took him out of a Williams and put him in today's Red Bull, is he the world champion? No. But if you took Max Verstappen, who is the most dominant driver on the grid today, out of a Red Bull and put him in a Williams, he doesn't even finish on a podium. Maybe a podium here or there, but he's definitely not the world champion. The car makes him the world champion. His skills have to be married with it, but without the car, the driver is just a guy taking a drive on a Sunday.
That was very short but sweet.
What else do I need to say? Drop mic.
I don't think you went hard enough on it for me. You didn't even believe your own argument because you kind of pedaled back and said, oh, of course he has to use his skills. Well, that's, what skills? If the car is more important, it should be like Kit from Knight Rider and anybody could be able to sit in it and win in it.
I'm not saying it's that important. That's why I didn't go in that
That's what
hard
the
on
argument
it.
was. That was what
the car is more important. Without the car,
Yeah.
you can't be the champion, is basically the way I phrased it, and that's true.
Yeah, you're saying it's the car's 51%.
Yeah.
Or more.
That's correct, but not 100. I'm saying it's somewhere in the 52.3 to 84.1% range importance.
I see. I'll never get swayed on this argument purely because living through watching Schumacher drag that Benetton around tracks and win, that was for me the defining driver's more important than the car.
I'm convinced. You got me.
Oh,
This
Such
is
a
the
cheap
best
date.
episode we've ever done. You know what? The best part is I don't even have to change the intro. Just say Brian and Rob, and we can get rid of Vale and use Reed. This is fantastic. I don't even have to think about it. This is done, signed, sealed, delivered. All right, Rob Vale, you're going to take us home here with the last one.
and also, just before you introduce this last one, this took on new meaning. We came up with these and dished them out before today's news, so this has now got this is even more topical.
Nicholas Latifi deserves a 2023 seat debate.
Nicholas Latifi is referred to as the Go-Tifi for a very good reason. He is one of the highly skilled drivers on the grid. He finished second in F2 in 2019 and won Spa, beating both Lando and George in a worse car. He won Rookie of the Year that year. In 21, he was ahead of both Haas as well as the Alpha of Giovinazzi. He was within touching distance of Kimi Räikkönen, who everyone says is a racing icon. This year, he's had his struggles, mainly, I would say, because of the huge mental burden of angry Lewis fans blaming him for the crash in Abu Dhabi and ruining the thing. Nobody would recover from that, yet he's still managed to have more points. He's outscored Albon by 4 points, and everyone says he's amazing. Lance and Zhou are like a couple of points ahead of him, and they're also viewed as massively more skilled than Latifi. Why? He has the potential, he needs a good car, put him in an Alpine, and he beats Ocon. Fact.
Sorry, that deserved the laugh track. That was really,
It was passionate.
yeah, passionate and rehearsed.
Well researched.
It wasn't rehearsed, but it was passionate. I thought passion might sway it.
That I think you honestly, of all of these, I think Rob with the Abu Dhabi one and you with the Latifi in a seat, you guys both got one that is unwinnable. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Latifi's unwinnable.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, like, good guy. Thank you so much. Enjoyed watching your race. Good luck in the next chapter.
Yeah.
But,
Do you think we put it out
F1
there?
Twitter doesn't need to be so mean.
No,
Yeah,
they don't. That
they
is
don't.
the. I do. Part of me when I was researching this, just to see where did he come from? Does he have any credibility? And, he has performed well in F2, and he did all right in his first year, and has the whole crash last year weighed on him. Well, if it really does, and he's that mentally weak that he reads Twitter and it impacts his racing, then he probably doesn't deserve a seat anyway. So yeah, it was kind of fun looking into it, but didn't believe a word I was saying.
No, and F1 Twitter, Rob, to your point, is a little too toxic at times, and that's why we love doing the dirty side. Because while we can have arguments like this and debate drivers, we always leave with some respect and some fun. And
No, I think
smile.
you guys said before, he's not top 20, but I mean he's top 50 in the world,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that guy certainly couldn't do what he does.
I couldn't either. You could put me in that car. There's no way. I don't even get around the track, let alone get within 2x his lap time. So
yeah, but I just really want to see F1 be a meritocracy of the 20 top drivers in the world.
Yeah.
Like that's just my ideal.
Can we wait for that until after he gets his McLaren seat?
Right.
What
Okay.
if,
Well, that was.
what if Lance Stroll went into the open market? Like
Yeah.
Stroll. Now Stroll's okay.
And there was a
Stroll is an
big debate.
interesting
There was a
one
big
because-
defense this week, right?
Yeah, I think Stroll is better than people give. Everyone wants to say, "Oh, he's only in that car because Daddy's running the show," but he's not doing bad when you look at the grand scheme of things. Where he is in his points, he's outperforming Vettel quite frequently in the same machinery. He's not actually as bad a driver as I think people would like to have him painted. I'm not saying he's up there, and if it was a meritocracy with all the people champing at the bit from F2 and Indy, would he come out in the top 20? Probably not. But I think he's better than people give him credit for.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's a solid driver, but again, just probably not. Maybe he might be 25th or
Yeah.
28th or something like that.
He's
right?
definitely-
he's right there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, that actually worked out pretty well. That was fun. When we were researching, or I was researching, trying to find the unpopular opinions, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole for things that were not really unpopular. They were just stupid, but I kind of collected them and put them on in here anyway, just to see what you guys think of them. There's only 4 of them, and only quickly hit them. Ideas to make F1 more attractive, and in the current era of kind of like liberty and putting any kind of idea is a good idea. Some of these I'm not sure are that ridiculous and they might end up happening. But anyway, the first one was there should be a reality show that runs alongside Drive to Survive with the winner getting to replace Brundle on the grid walk for the season.
I love this idea, but I would change it slightly. I think you should have a celebrity from the locale be in charge of the grid walk that week for TV and talking to people. I think it'd be fun. Like if you were in Miami and you grabbed a Pitbull or someone to walk up and down the track and talk to some of the celebrities, I think it would be even more exciting. And when we go to Vegas, I don't know who's the biggest. Wayne Newton has to. I'm kidding, not Wayne Newton. No one under 50 knows who that is. But you'd have to have just a celebrity do the grid walk.
Katy
Would be fun.
Perry's got a residency in Vegas.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you never look Mr. Bean doing Silverstone.
Brad
They get-
Garrett,
Yeah.
That's what you said. That the Brit came up with Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, just making faces up and down the.
Why not? Just pull faces at the drivers and see how many of the drivers he can get to reciprocate with a face.
No, but that would be my vote. Is not just a fan or a reality show, but I'd find celebrities and replace Brundle with a local or at least important celebrity each week. Personally,
Yeah, I think it would increase the engagement from the drivers and the principals, like having a new person to talk to every week on the grid, like instead of having to do it with Brundle every single race, right? Like,
yeah, the hardcore fans are going to get honked off that it's not a real interview, but let's be honest, half the time Brundle's running in between people, dodging elbows and camera crews.
He's an institution of the sport.
I love it. I love when he gets people he doesn't know. That is still the best. When he
Huge
has a deer
Brundle
in the
fan.
headlights yelling, Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes. No, that's not Patrick Mahomes, but okay.
Okay, number 2. This one is kind of, I don't know if it is under the banner of ridiculous, but given what we were talking about earlier on, if we had an extended calendar, teams should have 4 drivers and everyone goes in qualification and quali dictates which 2 get to race on Sunday.
Rob, would you like to respond to this one first? Your thoughts?
I mean, I'm just hearing this for the first time, so I'm up for trying anything that makes the racing, the weekend more exciting. So I don't know, like budget wise, that seems maybe tough for the teams. I'd like to
So
see it.
I just had an idea as you were reading this, and it's even further out there. Since this is called Ridiculous Ideas, my proposal is take the 20 drivers who have earned their seats, and on quali day, get them all in stock F1 cars, exactly the same cars, and how fast they go around the track, the order they finish dictates which car they choose to drive
Oh,
for that weekend. So if they're all in the same, this is not the race, but so they go around in a stock F1 car, and number one gets to pick, and if it's Monza, he's like Red Bull. But if there are different tracks earlier in the year, maybe they're like Ferrari, and then at the end you'll just see the person who finished last. In this case, will still be Latifi. He goes, I guess I'm in the Williams.
I have visions of there being like an even worse car. Like if you've ever watched any Top Gear episode when they've always got the backup car in the background, and it's kind of like, Latifi, you're in the Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah, you're in the Dacia Sandero.
The third one I found was actually harks back to something I've said a couple of times in jest, but this was actually on here with a kind of a new twist inspired by Formula E.
I thought you put this on here yourself.
No, I didn't. I found this, but somebody took in Formula E. Apparently, you can there's a Twitter poll, and you can decide who might get an extra boost, like a turbo boost, I think, during the race, or when it's going to be allowed, something like that. And anyway, there's one here. Sprinkler systems activated by Twitter votes should be deployed to bring more fan interaction to races. I mean, we all love a wet race. I mean, if we were allowed to vote on like at which point in the race the sprinklers and at which corner they were going to come in, there might be a safety issue here, but it would be exciting.
A safety issue here.
Yeah,
that's great. You got you got Lewis leading the race on old soft tires, and all of a sudden the sprinklers come on as he's coming around a corner because all the Twitter hacker men got out there and coordinated.
Yeah,
the
the
vote.
Twitter bots are at it again.
I love this idea. It's funny. It's like the Bond gadget on car kind of idea. No, for me on this one personally.
Now,
Rob?
the last one.
No.
Oh, sorry, Rob. Yeah. Okay, so you know as well. The last one, I mean, there could be some merit in this one, but basically do away with qualifying, or maybe find some other reason why qualifying needs to happen, but all races should always be based on the reverse grid from the previous race. Now, we all like a jumbled up grid. I mean, that's going to pretty much guarantee that. Well, not guarantee that. If Max has to win every race, then he has to come from last every race because it'll be a reverse grid every time. But I mean,
I don't like the reverse grid. I don't like any kind of reverse grid, personally. I think it kind of makes it more exciting, but it sets you up for just so much carnage. That's just not that's not what we want. We want good racing. We don't want to increase carnage on the track, and that's, I think, what you would do with any kind of reverse grid.
I've spent my life in corporate America, and I was at a session one time where I got into a heated debate. This was like a conference about the idea of aligning incentives and having goals that people shoot towards. There's no goal nor incentive which says I do a great job and get hosed because of it, and I struggle with that as well. Like, the amount of game playing that might occur isn't worth it. And I think the better you do, you should be rewarded for it. Now, if we go back to the, random stock car quali idea that I just had, I think that's something where at least, the incentive is to kick some ass in a similar car as everyone else, and then you could choose. That one works, but no, for me, I'm with Rob. The reverse grid, whether it's the carnage, I do like cars coming from the back, but I'm much more of it was a wet quali and it messed up the race order, and then it's race pace matters.
Yeah, or the penalty system that we have, which certainly needs some rethinking, but it's working for us. Yeah. Right. All the penalties are jumbling things up.
I think it's I want to say the touring car series in the UK uses weight that, depending where you finish, you have to carry extra weight penalty in the next race to kind of try to even out the racing. So you win. Going back to your weight stat from last week, Brian. Then if you win the race, you have to carry extra weight in your car the next race, which is essentially going to slow you down a little.
This is the second time we've talked about the weight stat, which you've made fun of twice.
Yeah, well, I'm still going to make fun of it. It's the fact that you said it. I couldn't stop you saying it. I mean, I could have edited it out of the episode and no one would have ever known, but...
That's true.
Right, I think we need to move on now.
Yeah, so this coming week is Rawi Singapore. So Rob Vale, tell us a little bit about what we got to look forward to. I am so friggin' excited that racing is back. This break was too long.
Yeah, it does feel ridiculously long. So we're off to Singapore, Marina Bay Street Circuit, 3.16 miles, held at night and goes on for 61 laps. Hasn't been around forever, only 2008. It's a relatively newbie. And they've kind of redesigned it a few times. I was looking at this. We've had the original track ran for 4 years, from 2008 to 2012. They got rid of the Singapore Sling Chicane in 2013-14.
I love that. Can we just pause for 1 second there?
Go on.
Can we give just a big love, hug, thought to the Singapore Sling chicane? For people who don't know, it was a chicane, and there was a monster sausage curb on the outside of it. And if you didn't get inside that sausage curb, you took very serious air. Like, I don't mean like you're up in the air going to flip over, but I mean you were launched into the air. And some of my favorite F1 videos of that time period were when cars would judge it wrong, or they'd be battling and they'd have to go over the sausage curb, and they just took off like airplanes, they went like 10 feet, it felt like.
Sorry, time out, Brian. Listener Az is going to be very, very upset if you don't give these curbs their correct name.
Sausage Curb Grande?
There we go.
Yeah. Rob, what do you think? I mean, I know you're a historian and fan and appreciate all these old races. Did you love that massive sausage curb or no?
I wasn't watching F1 back then.
Oh, please go back. It's 2013, 2014, and you can even just Google it and find some highlights. Maybe I'll.
No, like I said, I watched
thing.
the 2016 race last night, so I'll go. I've got the F1 TV subscription, so I go back and watch races all the time.
Go watch 2014 then, because 2015 is when they kissed goodbye to this huge curb. So it was basically like Knight Rider when Kit used to launch over the trucks, right? It was just, if you visualize that, but F1 cars, that's what that curb did.
Well, it's like when Hamilton hit Fernando's rear tire in Spa, and he went up in the air like crazy, and then the car broke. That's basically what happened to other people without the other car needed.
And Sausage Curb Grandes aside, it made its debut in 2008 and Alonso won, but it was shrouded in controversy as it became known as Crashgate. PK Jr. Was essentially, am I allowed to say allegedly, or was this proven in the end? I'm going to say allegedly now in case you say it was proven, Brian, but allegedly was told to crash on purpose to bring out a safety car to benefit Alonso, which he did, and he went on to win the race. So Singapore 2008 was Crashgate.
I love listeners' comments on this one. Send us a note on Twitter at F1 Dirty Side. So this was around that time period, sort of towards the end, where I didn't watch a ton. And so I don't have memory of this one. I had like the strong 90s, and then kind of when I went to college and was working like a dog, I fell out of F1 a bit. And so this was kind of in that time period, and I don't remember this. I didn't watch this, and I mean I know of it, and I've seen highlights of it on YouTube on F1 channel. But I don't remember the outcome. So feel free to send us notes and make fun of me for not knowing that.
I know the outcome. Alonso won it. It's just whether or not PK crashed to bring out the safety car, which, talking of which, this race has run 12 times and has had a safety car every single race. In fact, more than one a race, because right now we have a total of 21 safety cars over the 12 runnings of Singapore. So it's odds on that we are going to see multiple safety cars again this year. And it's given us some fun little moments down the year. We had Max shouting no on his team radio when he was told to move over for Sainz in 2015. And that was also the year when a complete, idiot snuck through the fence and ran across the track in the middle of the race as well. So we had that. And in 2017, we had a huge crash where Max became the filling in a Max sandwich between the bread of both Ferraris. So not a Ferrari sandwich, it was a Max sandwich.
That's correct.
All three of them came together. Big carnage, bits of car everywhere. Lewis came through with a big smile on his face, and that gave him a huge advantage in the battle with Seb that year. So
best part of
the
that
last time
is like a couple. Sorry, I apologize.
No, go for it.
Like a few turns later, Seb is now going backwards because of the way the car had been unsettled. He lost a wing and other things, and he's literally rolling backwards down the side of the track. Same direction as everybody else, but just in reverse. And the onboard of that is just epic when you watch cars going by in the right direction, but at 3x the speed, and you're facing backwards. I'm like, I can't imagine what that was like to be Seb at that point, trying to navigate the car as close to the wall as possible without getting into traffic.
And you said you watched the 2016 on replay, right, Rob?
Yeah.
So I didn't. I took some highlights from the 2015 and 2017. So what did I forget? What was the big moment in the 2016 one, being as it's fresh in your memory?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be it's a big quali race, right? Like the winners come from pole like more often than not. So that's big. It's the most physically demanding course for drivers of the season because of the heat, the humidity, and it's there aren't any kind of like long straights to relax on in this track, right? You are just on it the entire lap. So there's that. It was funny. It was interesting seeing Verstappen and Daniel Kvyat going at it. They had some battles because Max had taken his seat that year, and he got downgraded in 2016.
Yeah. That was okay. Yeah.
And then there's there's the now we know there's the love triangle.
Exactly.
Right.
The Kelly
you go back
Piquet.
and-
You won the Kelly Piquet sweepstakes.
So you see that, and then this is a 2, possibly 3-stop race. So the like a 2-stop, and it was funny back then. They were on the softs, the ultra softs,
Yeah, the super softs.
and the super softs,
Yep, I'm a tire
and the mega softs, and it was really confusing or just awkward to see it. Like they're really saying that with straight faces, like the commentators, like super softs and ultra softs. It just seems so much more, at least, like normalized to say soft, medium, hard. They seem to have made some progress on that aspect of it. So
You should. I mean, for any, obviously this is an audio pod, but you should have seen Brian's eyes light up at the discussion around tires.
Well, and I was trying to hold on, like, super softs. Did somebody say super softs? I'm excited. Before we get into some stats on this, we've hit it in a couple ways, but I'd like to bring it together because I'm excited for this race for another reason, is the strategy. And so, Rob Reed, you just said 2 or 3 stops. It'll be fascinating. You mentioned how taxing it is. And Rob Vale, you mentioned the safety car situation and all the times we've had safety cars. So I'm curious to see, at a track that is so hard to drive at, from a driver, being a little more fatigued, tired, hot, humid, just crazy how much weight they're going to lose. But that's not important. What's important to me is, if you're waiting on a pit stop, do you wait for a safety car? Do you sit out for an extra couple laps if it really could benefit you? If you're in second place, if you're Ferrari, if you're Charles Leclerc and you need a new set of tires and you want to go to the super softs, and you're on the radio, question, and so you're sitting there thinking about what you want to do, does the team maybe say stick out a lap or two, Gotifi's going to put it in the wall soon and we'll need a safety car, and then we'll get a freebie? I'm kind of curious because I think there are teams that may hang it out a little longer and see if they can kind of wait for that safety car to benefit them, because the last 3 races it's benefited the leader immensely.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think every team has usually got a window for their pit stops, right? So if it's a 2-stopper, they'll know that the earliest you probably want to come in is lap X, and the latest is lap Y, so they have the pit window. Unless you've absolutely trashed your tyres and you can't stay out later into the window, I think in Singapore you absolutely go to the limit of your window, and even beyond. If someone's done a good job looking after the tyres, you're coming up to the end of the window. You go early and you go at the beginning of your window, and 2 laps later there's a safety car. You'll just be like, "Oh man, it's not worth it." I think.
At least. Yeah. Well, we're gonna go OG on some stats here with the original Sap Stats theme. Sap Stats Singapore edition. All right, so Seb has 5 wins in Singapore, Lewis 4, Fernando 3. And they're all obviously still driving today. Merckx got 4 wins at the track, Ferrari 4, Red Bull 3, McLaren 1. But here's where it gets fun. Max can take the Drivers' Championship, but he has to outscore Charles by 22 points. So basically, if Charles finishes, it's not going to happen.
Finishes in the points.
I'm assuming, well, no, because I'm assuming he won't finish like 10th, 9th, or 8th. Is basically, he'll be in the top or he won't. This is kind of, I could be wrong, but. And he'd have to outscore, Checo and George as well. So by 13 and 6, those are more manageable. So I'm just excited to see that kind of happen. Red Bull cannot leave the GP with the Constructors' Trophy, though. The earliest they can clinch that is Japan. And Rob Vale, you found this stat, this last one. You want to hit this because it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it, and I can't take credit for it, although I wish I could find... I should have written down the Twitter person that put it out there, but it said, the one insane stat is that Max, over the last 6 races, can actually beat Ferrari's constructor total by himself. Right now, Max has got 335 points, and Ferrari's total is 406. If he can outscore them by 12 points per race, he'll beat Ferrari's whole total. So he won't just beat Charles, he'll beat Ferrari. And that, if that happens, and Binotto keeps his job... the world driver champion beat both your drivers put together. I mean, and it's not that unrealistic. He's only got to outscore them by 12 points per race. It's okay. Maybe if they both finish in the points in one race, that's fine. But one where they don't finish and Max wins it, a 25-point swing, that is, it's going to get close.
Wait, hold on a second. You took this stat from somebody on Twitter. Is that accurate?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's a good move.
Why?
Because the internet is always right.
I then looked at the totals and then did the math of how many points per race he's got to get.
You should put that in the headline then.
What? Because you just magically, by osmosis, all of your SAP stats come into your brain organically, do they?
Dude, I got, like Charlie Day, I got a room with boards and string, and I've dedicated 3 rooms of my house. My children sleep in sleeping bags in the living room so I can use their bedrooms for stats. Anyway, this has been a great time. As we start closing it off here, I guess I'll turn it to Rob Reed. I hope you had fun, buddy. But what do you think? Any things we can do better on this one? And would you join us again in the future to do one of these another time?
Yeah, this was the highlight of my week. So,
Excellent.
I say that because I'm recovering from a broken wrist, so I can't ride my bike.
That kind of takes the shine off the news. I might edit that bit out so we never hear that bit. But yeah, do you know what? It might even be something that we look to do with like other folk as well. I kind of like this whole idea of the third person at the bar with us. I mean, not every week because me and Brian are just absolutely fantastic by ourselves. But I think I like the format. I like the third point of view as well. It gets a little bit boring having to always be right against Brian by myself. So having 2 people to be right against Brian is even better.
That's how we're going to do this, huh? All right.
Only because I've taken so much abuse today about my map, my fictional track that I put together, which I've spent ages putting that together. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, read this week's blog about I took 10 iconic tracks, 10 iconic corners, straights, sections of tracks, stuck it all together to make this insane Uber track of all of the best pieces of tracks in the world. And then I'm just getting grief because everyone says it looks like a map of the UK.
Well, I had been completely positive, and I thought it was brilliant. I liked the corners you chose, but now that you ripped on me, I think you made it on a friggin' Etch-a-Sketch. So now that we're moving on,
I could never use Etch-a-Sketches. I could never draw anything. I could literally draw like 3 lines.
Stairs. You can draw stairs. That's all you can draw on Etch-a-Sketch. Do you want to see someone falling down a stair? How about a box going up a stair? That's what you do on an Etch-a-Sketch. And then you fill in the whole screen in a long car drive. Anyway, that's what it's called being old, kids. I would just like to say thanks to Rob Reed, not Vale, for this. This was a lot of fun. I had a blast. Great conversation. Same. And Rob Vale, in all seriousness, thanks for putting these topics together and drawing them out of the hat. That was great. We are excited because we will be back next week with a race review of Singapore, and we'll also have a preview of Japan the week after Suzuka. So we are back into it thick and fast, 6 races left. It's been a great season. I'm looking forward to the rest of the way. Rob Vale, take us out of here, man.
Yeah, just like to say thanks again to Rob, and make sure you go and hunt out his column on Forbes. Pretty sure that this week's column is just going to be about his amazing time he had on America's leading Formula One podcast. But yeah, go check it out, and we will catch you next week.
Thanks, everybody.